Michelle is in Barnet. Michelle, what would you like to say?
Hi, James. It's my first time calling in, and I just want to say I do appreciate that while sometimes I'm screaming at my radio listening to you, I can hear that you're really approaching the story with, compassion, and I appreciate that.
I hope so, Michelle. Thank you.
So I just want to say it's been absolutely exhausting being a Jewish person in the UK this week. And we're reeling from the pain of what's happened. I've tried not to actually look at the imagery because I don't want it to, be forever a mark on my soul. But, it's hard, really hard when you're seeing the visceral images of the depth of what people can actually go to. But I wanted to actually talk about, what's interesting is I've also been helping in activations to try and help get humanitarian aid into the country because as a community, Jewish people are very good at doing. We're not so good necessarily at speaking. Well, there's two thoughts of opinion on that, but we like to just do, and that's how we kind of help. And you'll probably find that more people are actually doing things and calling in to the radio. But, we've had a flurry and it's been horrendous from an anti-Semitism worry this week.
Yes.
And we are so lucky to be having Rishi Sunak and so many level-headed people in government, because all I can say is that had Corbyn been in government, we would definitely have been leaving this country. And I'm someone who's British-born. I can't explain that to you as a British person, how that feels. But what I wanted to say, and I don't want to get cut off, but...
you worried me. Carry on.
No, because what I wanted to say is that... why the anti-Semitism has been so difficult is because obviously, I hear you talking about does Israel operate to, do they need to operate to moral rules? Of course they do. They are the Israeli Defense Force. And as Jewish people and Judaism, you are governed to act in a certain way. Nothing is more important than life. And the way that I'm looking on Facebook of that image of that poor girl who's in her underwear, her G-string and her bra.
Yes, careful, because trigger warnings are important.
Right,
People, there's a reason why you don't look at the pictures that you've just described in grim terms. So I'm also reading about the 6-year-old child in America murdered for being Palestinian.
But let me just talk about the just before. Obviously,
I'm going to have to hurry you now, Michelle.
Right. But what I want to say is the conflating of how you can talk about the Israeli army that's going in to get its hostages. Imagine in the UK,
the coverage in Israel has been incredibly critical about the lack of concern being expressed for the hostages.
Well, that's it, because this is now, as you said,
by the Israeli government.
But the problem is because
nobody thinks that cutting off electricity and water and telling 1.1 million people to relocate is about rescuing hostages, Michelle.
Well, this is an active hostage situation.
Yes, but no one thinks this is the whole point in a way, isn't it? You can't with a straight face argue that these are measures being undertaken to rescue hostages.
I disagree, James. Because
right. So talk me through how it works then.
As a British citizen, imagine if we had people, babies, children, grandparents, people,
Yes, I can imagine that, but talk me through how these tactics work.
Well, they have to go in on a ground level to try and find where people are and rescue them. That's what's happening. That's why they.
Why are they moving 1.1? Why are they moving 1.1 million people to the south? Who?
They want to get the people. We know that Hamas uses people.
But wouldn't you take the hostages with you?
All I think about is, what can you imagine how amazing it would be if the Jewish people had given the benefit of getting out the way? No, because Hamas doesn't behave like Israel.
But you're not supposed to be conflating. You're not supposed to be.
That's my exact point. Right. I'm just demonstrating how we
don't
behave like those animals.
Yes, that's fine. But how does this tactic work? How does cutting off electricity and water for 1 million people?
Well, because you know that Hamas is using the people as human shields, and they're trying to get the enemy out.
So what happens? They all stay.
In Afghanistan,
you can keep talking, but here's the problem, and it's not really the question that I'm asking, but I understand that's a bit ambitious and optimistic of me, given the depth of emotion that everybody is feeling. But I don't understand. I am a Hamas terrorist. I am holding an Israeli hostage. I become more likely to peacefully hand that hostage back as a consequence of what Israel is going to undertake in the next few days. I just don't understand how you end up at that conclusion. I understand why you desperately want it to be true, but it sounds absurd.
But you say that, but I mean, I'm no hostage negotiator expert. But
No, but
I think
you're
it's
telling
quite
me that
standard
you're
practice
certain.
that when your enemy
Okay,
has
we're
your
off
people, you're trying to make it an uncomfortable climate to try and get the people out. But that's what. And
How does that happen though? Because the hostages are on the receiving end of the bombardments and the collective punishments as well.
I'm not privy to the operational detail, but what I can say
You don't
is,
have
as a
to be
British
privy to the
citizen-
operational
No, but as I
detail.
said,
You have
as a
to
British
justify
citizen,
your own
I
position that
know-
this is going to work, because I don't think it's got anything to do with hostages. I think this is revenge, and I understand that. Retaliation is perhaps a better word.
No,
and we
no,
know that. Well, of course it is, and we know
But
that.
that's a luxury that you can say because you
Well, of
haven't got
course.
150 people who are trapped in a,
And I
under
haven't
the-
got 1,300 people dead either, or whatever the Palestinian figure is now. So, this
do you
isn't
think that you should
conflation.
Forget about those hostages.
No, but
Should there be no attempt to rescue them? Then? Is
Well,
that
I
what
don't
you're
think
saying?
there is any
You
attempt to
that was
rescue
your
them.
family member.
I don't think there is any attempt to rescue them. That's what the bulk of coverage in Israel has said all week, that they've been treated with borderline contempt.
Because it hasn't been immediate rescue.
No, because the tactics that are being undertaken cannot possibly be cast as hostage rescuing tactics. And I think you must know that, because you've gone from saying you're certain that it will to saying, well, I don't know any of the how details and I don't understand any.
I don't, but
so
I
just have
know
a
that as
crack
a UK
then, please.
but just
have
as a
one
UK
go
resident,
at explaining
if
to
we were
me
held hostage,
how
if we had, you would be
you
expecting
can do
your
all the
government to go in and get
counterfactuals. You can do all
But
the counterfactuals you
would.
want. So how does it help? How does it work? That's all I want to know.
They're trying to locate and take out Hamas, which they've said that they want to do.
But Hamas are with
and
the hostages.
Right. So actually, what you're asking
So how do you
me,
take out? Here's a terrorist in a room with a hostage.
How do you? So you tell me.
No, I don't
Do you
need to
speak
tell you.
Hamas,
I've told you
and
what I think.
say to Hamas,
There we
please,
are.
can you kindly return the hostages, other than actually forcibly rescuing them?
So how does
what
it
is
work,
the better
Michelle?
option?
How does it work? Here's a room. There are 2 terrorists and 1 hostage in the room. Tell me how these tactics rescue the hostage.
Well, they'll take out the terrorists. That's what
They're in the same room.
They're having a ground invasion. I don't know why you're asking this question like it's the first time that hostage rescue has ever happened.
Because I don't think this is hostage rescue, and I don't think you do either.
Right. No, to be honest, I do think this is hostage rescue.
Well, then you must tell me how it
exactly
works.
The same.
You must tell me how it
exactly
works.
I just explained. But what I'm
Go on,
understanding
then.
is you think it's okay just to leave these people
I
to
think
die.
anything's okay. I don't have any. That's not fair at all. I haven't said anything.
It is, because then.
No, I'm just
as
asking
time
you, because
ticks
your
on,
justification
and you've
for what is going to happen is that it's a hostage rescue attempt, and I just want one sentence that would allow me to think, oh yes, she's got a point. This looks like a hostage rescue attempt.
When
If you
Israel
could
disengaged from
Please
Gaza,
answer my question specific
you
to the.
answer my question. When
I don't
Israel
have to answer
disengaged
your
from
question
Gaza,
because I'm not endorsing any course of action. I'm comparing it to a natural disaster or a tsunami. You're saying that this carnage that's about to be unleashed is justified by the fact that it's a hostage rescue action. I'm saying I can't really see any evidence at all for that rationale, and I'm just asking you to provide a little bit.
Well, it's definitely not the same as a tsunami because that has been man-made entirely. So that's not a fair point of comparison.
Well, I know, but it's the Israeli Defense Force that is on the offensive now, not the Hamas terrorists. So I mean, I'm using
I don't know if they're going to. I don't think that's a very fair fight when they're being backed and armed by.
No, I know you
high
don't.
powers.
I know you don't. But I'm not
listening.
listening. I've given you the whole of this section of the program. Can we agree that you haven't got a single scintilla of support for the idea that this is a good way of rescuing hostages?
I don't know what the other option is apart from just.
That's very honest of you. That's very honest of you. But even more honest would be to say the truth, which we both know to be that you haven't got a single scintilla of support for the idea that this is a good way of rescuing hostages. And much of the coverage, which doesn't mean it's correct, but there's certainly a majority of the coverage, including the families of an awful lot of the hostages, which you must have read, Michelle. You must have seen this. They do not believe that this is a hostage rescue attempt. And Frank, I don't think anybody does really.